If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Level Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me, I've got Josh. Josh, how you doing today?
Yeah, the year's going pretty all over the place. So I'm keeping up with everything that's happening. How about you?
It's going pretty good so far. I managed to avoid all the illness in the house. So both my kids were sick, and Jen got sick for like 24 hours, and I have not. So
yeah. My kids had a bit of the quademic, I guess it was, and they missed some school. They're back in now and getting all their homework done. I did have something that happened last night in my Tuesday game that I would like to share with you.
Okay, sure.
We've been running Paranoia. One of the other guys is running that game, but he had some family obligations. So I jumped in to do a one-shot, and we went and did the new D&D, the 2024 Player's Handbook edition of D&D in Foundry. And I have to say, there's a lot about that I do like. I don't like all the shenanigans they did with the gaming license and, complaining with taking things down and messing around with the different fans and stuff like that. But the changes that I think they made to the Player's Handbook, I was very happy with. And maybe we could talk about that in some length later.
I believe we were going to talk about it in some length at some point in time. But today, we're going to talk about a one-shot. Let's pick a one-shot today.
One-shots are very fun. Like I said, ran one last night. We should talk about creating one today.
Okay. So we talked about a prompt last week when we met, and the prompt is going to be Whispers of the Vanishing Rabbit.
Yes. This was definitely something I wrote down, and I have no idea why. I don't know where it came from, but I like it.
Yes. It's an interesting title, so we would go with it. Do you have an idea for a hook?
Well, there's a couple of things that spring to mind. Vanishing Rabbit, obviously, you could do something magician related.
Okay.
But
yeah,
the first thing that came to my mind was actually burglars. Like high-end cat burglars stealing jewels and stuff like that, leaving behind a symbol of a rabbit that, after it's first seen, disappears, as if even, while there's no evidence that they were even there, even their calling card itself disappears.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I was thinking something mysterious when I first read the title to you. I enacted an NPC, and I'm like, this would have to be in the game where it's like, have you heard of the Vanishing Rabbit? I've heard whispers.
Yes, yes. And I think this would be really interesting, is that maybe you are hunting down, you've tasked with capturing this cat burglar. And
so you're hunting the Pink Panther here.
Yeah, basically. And perhaps it would be suggested that they lay a trap, and now you've set up like a museum with a specific piece, and you have to go to a gala event to discuss, sort of like weed out who the burglar is going to be, and then you have to foil the burglary.
I like that idea. It's a game where you bait in the bad guy, and then you let the chips fall as they may. I actually I like the concept of how do you catch a cat burglar? Well, you catch them while they're thieving. So I like the idea with that. I also think that it's really easy to set it up in terms of like, your players are brought onto a scene to, investigate a burglary for them. That's where you get the vanishing rabbit thing, or, they're brought in to help with local law enforcement, some local detectives, some local, so somebody who's trying to catch the cat burglar, and that's why they're brought in. And then you get to investigate an already burglarized scene. You get to understand some things about him, like the calling card that disappears when you see it.
Just had a thought here. Just in terms of setting it up. Yes, all of that. But I want to add an extra couple of scenes before the gala. Okay. I think that your party, your group, has been hired by the local constabulary or possibly the museum. I'm going to go with the museum. The local cops aren't getting the job done. The museum is hosting this gem, that they know the Vanishing Rabbit is going to come for.
I already know the twist,
right? You got a twist. Excellent. We'll get to that. But
the twist.
They say that the Vanishing Rabbit always does like one job before their main job, so they can make sure that they can check, the local response times and sort of plan out certain things and whatnot. So you are sent to investigate a scene where it's already happened. And that's where you gather some of this information and work with the cops or fight against the cops and maybe track down some accomplices or whatnot. And then the gala is the big event. Right?
Yeah.
So definitely it gives more dynamics, like this is how it's happening, and shows that they're really good, and it can do a lot of investigation for your players. They can learn things. They can get into sort of maybe track down accomplices and get into a fight sort of situations. You've got a little bit of combat, or maybe just like a verbal sparring sort of thing. And then you've got the actual big mystery. So it gets a little bit more rounded game. So it's not just focused on one thing at any one point.
I agree with doing that. And I do love the idea of a wealthy patron or like the museum patron coming to you. And I would definitely stick with that, and you'll understand when I get to my twist. So, which I think you can already guess what's going to happen here. But
I don't know. Maybe we'll, readers, if you figure it out, write to us.
levelupgamingpodcast@gmail.com. Stop listening to the podcast. Write to us in a week or so.
Send us a self-addressed stamped envelope to P.O. Box. Level Up Your Gaming Podcast.
Level Up Your Gaming Podcast.
Don't. That's not a P.O. Box. Don't send
it. Don't send mail to that. You're just gonna waste some postage.
But yeah. Okay. So genre setting. You're absolutely right. City game. Multiple burglary sites. Like it. I think that a big city, a medium-sized city. This feels very much like a modern or noir, or even like 10 minutes into the future. You could do it in any of that settings. I think if you did it in a fantasy setting, there are considerations at that point, but it definitely could be done as long as it is a big city. You've got opportunities for the different scenes, for the different places, for the crowds of people. We're not going to focus on a huge number of NPCs. We're not like discussing with hundreds of NPCs or anything like that. There will be a lot of people in some of these locations. The gala is going to be a big gala event, obviously. The cops there's going to be tons of cops, but only a couple of them are actual detectives and only matter.
This is where
So-
you have to really kind of flex your improv skills here, because you're going to have a lot of people that your players might want to go talk to, and you're just going to have to play, basically snooty museum goer at gala, or interesting museum goer at gala, or insert your personality that you want to have as your players go about to talk to all these different people.
Dumb security guard,
Yep.
dumb patrol cop. If you want to go the route of tracking down accomplices, like how did this guy get access to this facility for the preliminary burglary, then you might have some, underworld lowlifes, and that would be fun too. So yeah, you got a couple of NPCs. I like the, let's go with Jewel Thief, because I like Jewel Thief as a thing, but you could easily swap that out if you want to use this in a longer term game as, the MacGuffin.
Yeah,
So-
Jewel Thief, Artifact Thief, MacGuffin Thief. Something is going to be there that the thief definitely wants. Okay. And so obviously your introduction to the game is you're approached by this museum patron / wealthy patron, whoever. Maybe the wealthy patron is somebody who owns the MacGuffin / jewel or something of that nature, or claims to own the MacGuffin / jewel or thing of that nature, and says it's going to be at this gala. And then what they're going to do is they're going to bring you in and say, by the way, we know the thief burglarizes a second scene. Go take a look at that. So that's your introduction to the situation here. Unlike most of the other one shots I think we've done, this one is more of a request based game. Okay, which means that you have to entice the players to want to take the request, because your players could poo-poo your whole game right now and say no. So, assuming you have players who play ball, they should go and do the stuff. Okay, you'll be rewarded handsomely is always a good way to do this.
Whether with financial rewards or prestige, or opening up necessary doors into higher levels of society, whatever it is that your players want. Once again, know your players. You can offer them, because a museum patron or whoever this wealthy person is that is hiring them to begin with, I mean, they own the MacGuffin or the big jewel or the fancy artifact, and so they definitely have connections and they know all sorts of stuff. And you're going to be showing up the local cops, and who doesn't love doing that? I love doing that. Let's do that. So, yes, patron approaches your party, says, "Hey, I'm worried. I'm worried that my thing is going to be stolen by the Vanishing Rabbit. It just happened last night that a similar burglary occurred at this secondary site, and it's well known that the Vanishing Rabbit always does a preliminary run to work out any kinks in their heist before it happens."
Yeah, and then you then have them go to the I'm calling it the practice job here, but the reason why is that this is to familiarize your players with the style of game.
Yeah.
Okay. So now your players will learn how to detect clues, how to question witnesses, how to spot telltale signs of your villain.
It would be really fun at this point if your players decided they wanted to sort of reenact the burglary, as a sort of like, let's walk through the crime sort of thing. And they would get the various clues, and they could then, you could walk them through as if they were doing the burglary in a lot of the same way that you would do like the Rashomon games, where you do the flashback. Like, remember when we did that thing? You could do like a flashback and walk through the burglary based on the clues that they found. And that is in itself sort of a puzzle. They've got to put together, how is this guy going to do that? look for clues around the scene, interrogate the either witnesses or the detectives on scene to see what information is available. Sort of put all these clues together, and the more clues they've got, the better that flashback that you're going to give them of the burglary is going to be. And that'll give them the necessary tools for when you actually head off to the real burglary at the gala.
Yes. So, I mean, like the puzzle there is fitting together the pieces of what happened and how this took place. And then, your execution of that is to be able to recant or give some details here as you go through the investigation. And then when you're actually at the gala, you could create, if you want to put some other puzzles in there that are not socially related and investigative related, you could have some locked doors or something that the players have to finagle and figure out. Okay?
Mm-hmm. So yes, locked doors, different areas. You've got security guards. You've been tasked with securing this thing, but not necessarily like the law is not on your side here.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think your ultimate setback. So as your players work through the gala, they catch wind of where they think the cat burglar will strike. They work their way there, and they are beset by like almost like a cartoony thing where they're trapped in like a cage, like in a way, like, and that's when you reveal that the patron who hired you is actually the cat burglar. Okay. And he used you to, lower the security within the place, work around security, because you're not working with law enforcement. So you are actively helping him procure this information.
And now you have become the accomplices to his crime. So that's definitely your setback. How are you going to resolve this then?
Yes. So I think at this point now, the players obviously feel betrayed. Cat burglar has taken MacGuffin, jewel, artifact that they thought they were protecting from there, and they've been caught by security traps or whatever it might be. So your players are going to remove themselves from the security entanglement, and then they will pursue the cat burglar. And one of the things that you should be able to do is help the players at this point remember or understand from the first thing you did how the cat burglar operates. And so perhaps your players have learned some things about the site already, which hopefully they do, and you can turn some of the stuff that they've learned into this is how he would escape, and this is how you can head him off and actually catch the cat burglar.
So you're working against the cops.
Yes.
Or the local security constabulary, whatever it's going to be. I know the cartoony cage is fantastic, but just a locked door,
it doesn't have to be a cartoony cage. You're just basically locking the players into where the MacGuffin was.
Mm-hmm. The fake patron, the cat burglar, steals the thing in front of you, setting off the alarms. And then disappears. Now the cops are now rushing in, and they see you there. The alarms are off. They assume that you've stolen the thing, and so maybe this turns into a chase sort of sequence where the cops are constantly trying to beset you and attack and chase you down. You are running through the rest of the museum trying to track the cat burglar. And the cat burglar is, of course, not showing up on the cops' radar at all because they're so far ahead or because they're a cat burglar. And so, yes, your players would have to know he likes going out this way. This is what he does. He always stores a thing in this one place. And this is information they would have gained from that first scene. So,
yes, the cat burglar would have, You would have learned how things would have been done in the first scene, or you would have learned how things are done during the gala prior to catching your players. So the key here is you understand how the cat burglar operates, or to an extent, and then you discover what the way that you would really eloquently handle this is the players find like the rope that the cat burglar is going to scale the building with or something. Okay. And the players sabotage the rope in some way. And so by the time the cat burglar uses the rope or his escape method, it doesn't work, or it malfunctions on him, and it lands the cat burglar in the player's lap. And that's how you get to your climax. So like that would be the ideal way to execute that. It's very hard because a lot of that requires a little bit of player ingenuity, but you can very strategically kind of work through things, because what you're going to do is the players aren't just going to stand in the gala room. You actually need to actively encourage them to go out and investigate the rest of the museum, or the rest of the museum that you want them to use for this investigation, to give them like, hey, this is a thing. Like, you're picking up these clues. And then the players can sort of understand like, oh, from inference, this is what this does, or what it might likely be used for.
I like the idea. Like, and I know this is sort of a little cliched on the topic, would be that because the players are not working with the cops, they do have invitations to the gala, but they know that the Vanishing Rabbit will steal the MacGuffin, the jewel, the whatever it is, after the gala, after everybody's left. So they go to the gala, and then part of that is to hide somewhere in the gala, sneak off to the bathrooms, go up into an office space, whatever it is, so that when the gala leaves, when all the normal patrons leave, they're left there in the now vacated facility. So that would be sort of in that spot. They go to the place, they see the Vanishing Rabbit, steal the item in front of them. It is the other patron. He knew about this the whole way. Your bumbling around, sneaking into the facility was what prevents or allows him to succeed in the first place. Then you've got the security, the guards, the cops, the whatever, the chase sequence, leading to the resolution where you have successfully cornered the cat burglar. Cops are on your tail. And now this is the final scene. This is the showdown.
Yeah, so you could have a little like combat here. You could have a lot of your combat heavy kind of fight the chase. Be the chase. It's a more abstract way to end the game, which is that this is a very heavy social game with less like physical actions within it. If you're going to run it as a one shot, you're going to give pre-gens. Make sure that the characters reflect that, so that you're able to execute this well. But at the end, maybe you do have a small confrontation with the cat burglar. He's a level 5 karate master. Like, I don't know. Yes.
Yeah, it could be anything. Like, what might also be interesting would be like if he fits that museum patron, wealthy, sort of, a frail dude with like big bushy white mustache. And so when the guards rush in and you are confronting this little old man, basically, maybe the guards are like, why are you beating up on an old guy? And that in itself is part of it. He's, using his own.
Or again, perhaps, it's a very sophisticated villain. Okay. So in that regard, when you finally catch him, he is willing to go without a fight. Okay. And so, you do it, and your resolution in that regard, no matter how you end up taking him into custody, whether it be through physical altercation or, the honorable villain that he is, he will give himself up to you. And so, there is no like true fight within the game beyond the physicality of running away from the cops in the museum. And I actually kind of like the idea of the sophisticated villain being captured and caught, and then you give them off to the cops, and there's a whole understanding, and you finally smooth things over, and as they're taking away the they throw them in the paddy wagon or whatever jailer cell that they're going to cart him away in. It vanishes into the night, and the darkness of the night. The moonlight flares upon the open cage, and all that's left in there is a card with the white rabbit on it.
Yep. Yeah. And you take a second look, and it's just a blank card. There's nothing left, as if he was never there at all. Yeah. I love that sort of like, were the cops in on it? Were those actually even police officers? Was this all just a show? Are you going to be left held in the bag? There's a lot of open-ended questions here.
It also gives you a lot of this thing where, like, you could always do a part 2 to the Vanishing Rabbit, because in the future you could come across the calling card again, and the rabbit vanishes, and now your players have the knowledge of this game to remember that he's back. Like,
yeah, and maybe they need to capture an artifact from a place, and they've got no way to get to it, and so they reach out to the Vanishing Rabbit. Could be all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah, cat burglar gets captured, gets taken away, or does he? It has some real just like that's a classic Pink Panther style story, and I love it. I think that we need more of these, less fight your way through the whole thing, more social game with investigation, an interesting NPC, and you really have to play up this the cat burglar itself as an interesting character. Not throwing insults back at the party as you're chasing them through the thing, but sort of, playfully mocking them.
Yes, and what you're doing is you're creating a very it's a well-rounded kind of like antagonist villain in that regard, that is not so much of I just want to kill the players. It's more of I am doing this for the thrill of the theft or the hunt or whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a really interesting NPC like that, a memorable one, is going to make this a memorable game. Your players are going to have a little bit of fun in the cat and mouse style chase and in the investigation, and I think that the ending that you talked about, the handing him over, or did you, is going to be very memorable. It's going to be very you can do a whole cinematic thing there, and it's a great way to sort of end that session. I love it.
Yeah. So then in our review, now we've kind of gone through the whole story, we kind of worked it out here. I think in terms of maps, the only two that we would really need would be like the first scene that you're going to investigate, and then the museum. This is kind of a game where, again, all games can be done with either of the mind. I think if you are capable of getting a map of a museum and sort of thinking through it, the map of the museum probably helps you a lot here.
Yeah, and you don't need to it doesn't need to be a battle map of a museum. I think that if you go online and Google any museum, you're going to get a floor plan, right? And you could just say the gem's being held in the Egypt wing here, and that's what it's going to be. And then you lay out how the whole thing, and the gala is going to be over here in the dinosaurs, and that's
a lot more of the planning is not so much about how the map looks, but more where you're going to put your different things within the map, and where you're going to put your traps within the map, the ones that maybe capture the players, and the ones that maybe capture the cat burglar at the end.
Yeah, you make your plan in the first scene, you know, either a second museum or an art gala or like even a similarly shaped shopping center, something that has some of the similar um, design or settings or something that you could use, and you lay it out. You've got your first plan. You recreate part of that in design, at least the second one, and then you go from there. As far as like mobs, as bad guys, NPCs, character blocks, I don't think we need much.
No. Again, certainly you have the cat burglar. So again, you're the one who's going to be executing this game that we've basically talked about all the plot hooks and stuff too. But if you're going to have them fight them, make sure the cat burglar has some stats. And if you're going to have them running away from the cops have to have some stats. And again, that's probably depending on how you want to execute sort of combat or the physicality within the game. The flight from the cops or the lawmen are going to be one way to do it, and then the other one was going to be final confrontation with the cat burglar. Again, it's not an easy game to pull off, but I think it definitely brings itself kind of full circle, and I think it's very nice. I do like the idea of a handout. If you could figure it out, is the calling card. But obviously, I don't know if you can create the vanishing rabbit on it. I mean, don't spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how to get something to disappear.
Like a disappearing ink sort of thing.
Yeah. But if you want to create like a little calling card with a rabbit on it, it's a fun little prop that you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to stress, in terms of the cat burglar's stats, I think that if you're going to be writing out the stats, yes, you could make it combat focused, but I think that making it mobility focused is the better way to go. So the if we're talking about the gentleman burglar, who's going to, once he's cornered, go without a fight, all of the combat stuff that he's going to have is about escaping, is about outpacing you, about disappearing, about making those athletic backflips and somersaults and dives through the air, so that he's A, impossible to hit, and B, impossible to capture until you finally corner him. Your cops can be more thuggish. They can be, just, not necessarily faster. Slower is even better. They're just, consistent. They can't keep up with how fast your characters are running. So it's not like I can make it 10 feet and they make it 10 feet and I make it 10 feet and they make it 10 feet. You have, they're constantly falling behind, but then new cops show up that are like either in your way or just behind you to keep funneling the players to that final confrontation.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. And again, it's about executing that chase there at the end so that it doesn't feel repetitive and boring. It should be very decisive. Chases can be kind of difficult in that regard, but make sure that like where your players need to get to and how many times they will encounter resistance, basically. Like that's the big thing in terms of how you get your players to have a good chase. And again, you might have a couple quick combats in there, some really really fast hitting stuff. But I think that if you've lined the game up well, the players will should abide by the contract pretty well and not go for the kill on any of these things.
Yeah, I would even go so far as to like maybe in their initial being hired on, it would be like, hey, you might end up working against the cops because they don't really want to have you there. Make sure you don't hurt the cops if it comes to that. And that there'd be like maybe even explicitly stated right at the beginning of the game, so that the players still have that in their mind, even though the whole thing's been flipped on them by the point that it becomes relevant, it may still be, you know, reinforced through their investigation of the first scene. They're doing all their investigation. Once their investigation is sort of like 99% done at that first scene, maybe some higher ups show up and they like throw you out of the scene, and they like throw their weight around like, you're not supposed to be here. Who let these idiots on the scene? I'm gonna fire the lot of you. So you get a little confrontational, and then when they do have that flip, when you find out that the cat burglar is the patron who hired you in the first place, that you still have that in the back of your head, like, hey, we're not supposed to be fighting the cops, but the cops are trying to fight us. If your players do end up fighting the cops, fighting the guards, whatever, keep the fight small, and then at the end of it, you can just have your cat burglar pop in and says, I didn't know you're going to fight those guys, and then run off in another direction further down. So you keep the activity going, right?
Yes.
You didn't like stop and we fought these guys and now the cat burglar's gone forever and we totally lost. It is, we fought them, he pops out, he makes fun of us for fighting them, and then runs away, and we've got to keep chasing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I like it. It's very, very, very fun.
Okay. As far as, coming up with something on the fly from a name that just, I have no idea where it came from, I kind of like it.
I like it too. I think it should be a fun game, a different type of one shot that I don't think we've talked about here before. But give something like this a try if you're interested. levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. You can let us know about the next one shot idea if you've got one or a prompt for one. Also, the podcast is on YouTube, so go ahead and smash the like button there. Subscribe to your favorite podcasting site, review it, recommend it to a friend, all those good things. And that wraps up for the week. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.